Hello, welcome everyone. Here's another podcast episode of the Startup Voyage. And today we are talking about funding for Web3 companies. I've titled this episode Funding Unveiled, the Harsh Realities of Raising Capital in Web3, which it has been in this very, very long crypto winter. In this episode, we dive deep into some of the challenges in the Web3 space, and the industry itself continues to be booming with innovation and promise, also harbors its share of harsh truths when it comes to raising capital. We'll break down these realities into three key areas: people, process, and technology, from the human elements influencing investment decisions to the intricate processes behind funding and the technological hurdles unique to Web3. This episode aims to shed light on what it really takes to secure financing backing in this rapidly evolving landscape. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned investor, or simply curious about Web3 funding, this episode promises to provide valuable insights and real-world wisdom. Today, we have a guest, Robert Capodietti, CTO of multiple projects and a blockchain evangelist. Renowned for his strategic vision and technology, he's mastered driving corporate technical direction and delivering results. His expertise spans strategic planning, business intelligence, and team leadership, with a deep focus on blockchain technology and decentralization. As a trusted partner in C-level decision-making, Roberto is dedicated to innovation and process improvement. And the reason why I'm having him here today is because he himself has gone through the arduous decision-making of whether or not to fundraise, and he's got a lot of stories to share with us that will be valuable to my audience. So, Robert, thank you for joining our show.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, yes. So I guess just to get started, maybe you can give a little bit back about your recent project, that how I found you, about SimFly, and maybe a little bit of background of how that started.
Sure. Yeah, as you introduced me, a very beautiful introduction, actually. Thank you. I am into this world of Web3, blockchain, decentralization since the early days. I wrote the first white paper in 2013, 2014 about the use of blockchain for document management for trade finance. So it's been evolving. And I had gone through a lot of experience. Actually, I was during sabbatical year that I take. That was just mentoring startups where I met these four people that this idea for this project for flight simulators. Honestly, when they told me the idea, I thought it was something that will never work. And that's been for me a huge lesson, actually, following them. Now I'm 20% owner of the company, and I am actively working with them in this play to earn that is ethical, which is strange because usually play to earn is synonymous to Ponzi scheme or scam, unfortunately. Yeah. And in fact, that's exactly one of the points where raising funds for projects that they have that are attached to some aspect of Web3, like it can be NFTs, tokens, or other things, it can become difficult because of the reputation, the unfortunate reputation that outside the world of Web3 itself, this sort of project have, raised. So it is a double challenge. So for Web3 project, promoting and finding funds inside the Web3 community is easy. But outside, when you bring the technology outside the world, people hear token, NFT, blockchain, a lot just run away and don't want to be associated. It's a strange planet.
Okay. So this is what I'm showing on the screen right now. This is SimFly, and so it's not real flying, right? It's through a flight simulator. Maybe you can explain sort of like
Yeah.
how it's gamified. I understand there's different missions that you can take and increase your level within this gaming. And how do you earn?
Absolutely. This is a very interesting aspect, and the decision that I made of participating in this project, even though
Hmm.
it's a delicate topic. For example, I've been into blockchain since really day zero, and I never did an ICO. And people
Yeah.
came to me, why? Because I never found them ethically sustainable. Like there is a lot of things. So I don't want it to be confusing in that. In this case, uh, play to earn have the doubt that people put is like you cannot take out of a box more than you put inside the box. So the first
Right.
thought that comes is like when you have a container that can be a game and experience where people earn, where you find the funds to pay the people that earn if not from people entering the system. So that's why it is a very easy conclusion to jump to say that these are Ponzi scheme, which a lot are in fact.
Yeah.
In the case of SimFly, the beautiful thing is that the public and the target is a very particular kind of target. So it's a
Mm.
niche, which is people playing, not playing, people using flight simulators. It's not a
Okay.
game, it's not a play, because you cannot just sit and do one game until game over. Because if you don't know all the small technicality of aviation, you cannot actually fly, right? So
Yeah.
it already limits the capacity to earn a token by having experience, having sometimes years of experience in this field and knowing exactly how to move things, which
Mm.
means it's not something that you can put about to somebody moving the mouse very fast to earn tokens. It's not such thing,
Mm. Mm.
It's really a job that requires competence, which make a limitation on who can create tokens. Tokens are minted based on the people flying an airplane, like if a pilot is getting a salary, and giving this economical layer where people can earn enough to buy an airport. And with an airport, you can have a passive income. Every time somebody lands or take off, you can earn some token as well, with all the gamification of collecting experience point to increase the level of your asset, etc., etc. So the technology of Web3, where NFTs are representing the assets, is actually a huge plus, because give the freedom of people to take their asset, resell them in the open market, or if somebody else build another platform where SimFly asset is accepted, they can actually shift in. Can you say you have a pilot license and you're a captain? There can be a
Mhm.
shop that sells graphic cards for people with a flight simulator, where you can prove that you're a captain in SimFly, you get a discount. So the freeing asset from a game so that people
Mm.
can use them everywhere is a huge advantage of the technology, right? So the big revolution of blockchain is to create uniqueness in a digital asset. So I could have an MP3 file and make 10 copies. I don't know which is the original, but I cannot make 10 copies of my Bitcoin, because in that case, it will be worth zero. So the use of the technology is actually improving a lot the experience,
Mm.
but at the same time, it brings with it a reputation for people that is not in the field, that don't know the things, that scares people. It scares investors that are
Mm.
not in the Web3 world. So is a really two-sided aspect when marrying this sort of technology. Though.
Yeah. So, SimFly itself, I think you did at one point, you were mentioned that you were considering going out to fundraise, right?
Right.
What do you think like you just said, sometimes when investors don't understand something, they get a little bit scared about it. What do you think the investors' mindsets are when they're considering funding a Web3 project compared to a traditional tech startup? Is there a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I cannot blame people for staying away from something that has been several times mentioned inside the scams. From the actual crypto exchanges, we had exceptional cases, FTX and so on, from wrong algorithm, Terra Luna. And in other Web3 project, I've been so unfortunate. I had a company for consulting, it's called Blockchain Zoo.
Hmm.
Somebody did the crypto zoo and was a scam, and now this zoo world has been kind of there. So if people think I am associated, which I'm not, absolutely, it's just a similar name.
Right.
But in fact, this is so strong that it can have this sort of repercussion. We've been
Mm.
blessed in a way, because we failed We were really searching for an angel investor to put a little money to help us with the marketing, and that this would have given a big chunk of the company. We failed to find it, and fantastic, because the company is making like 10 times the money that we were searching, and we didn't have to give away anything. Too bad for people that refused because they lost an opportunity, but would they know? In
Yeah.
fact, at the end, every investor should invest on the people more than the project, because the people are what you trust. But also
Right.
there is a big trouble that a lot of people are very sweet talker. They sell themselves very well, and at the end they don't bring products.
Yeah. Just like Sam Bankman-Fried, right? He is a very good talker. He sold a lot of people, and he was almost like the legitimate guy in crypto, and
Right.
everyone thought and trusted him, right? So I guess that's the point. Do you think it's changed a little bit because maybe investors or maybe spending a little more time doing due diligence, whereas maybe in the past they're very chasing after deals and they don't do enough, and then they just start putting their money in.
Yeah, I lost quite some money as well, putting 100,000 here, 200,000 there in project
Mm,
that end up
mm.
not being delivered. People buy themselves a house with the money, and would I know what I can do? Now I spend enough more money to sue them or go after them. It will be That's why probably organized investors are more prepared than the improvised one, which I suggest everybody not to, like, unless it's family and friends. And analyze the use case of the project. Web3 or not, does it make sense? Would people adopt it? What are the opportunity? Would you as an investor use this thing? And also, is the person doing the project really need the money? Because if I'm making a project and I have the money to invest, why, and I believe in the project, why would I ask money outside? I put my own money, I will make more return at the end of the day. So there are a lot of questions that people should ask themselves: why they're searching for an investor? What is the gap they need to, I'm a strategic in the investment. I provide money, but I provide also connection to. So where is the return I can give? So the technology and the use case are absolutely something to analyze. I see a lot of projects that don't have any use case, just a cool idea, but with
Yeah.
no problem to solve, and those are very risky, though.
Right. So I'm sure if we really looked at every single project, we can categorize them in different approaches strategically. So I can imagine someone has a great idea. They socialize it. It seems like something that would be attractive to the market or solving some problem. Um, the founder then goes out and says, "I'm going to get some angel funding." Puts a pitch deck together. Maybe doesn't so much believe that it can happen, or they have their own money. Probably they don't want to risk it, so they go out and get money out. So I think that what are the misconceptions? Like when an entrepreneur starts a business, for whatever reason, and they're facing investors, what is the expectations that they get in return? Because, like you said, they take a lot of the percentage of the company. So yeah.
Right. I have a friend that actually started something amazing. I'm not gonna do names, but
Hmm.
and he started getting rounds and rounds and rounds. And at the end of the things, the company was huge, but the guy had less than 1% left for himself.
Wow.
So at that point, he's not more motivated. So on the investor side, I had a discussion in Dubai recently. The flew just for this to support the project. This person was giving money, but they wanted to have like 90% of the project. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I was like, look, which is the motivation I have,
Yeah.
me and partners, to work on something that is not ours anymore, right? So you need to keep the person motivated, so you can invest, but you need to be sure that this person has all the reason to make this thing a success in multiple ways, right? There is something to lose, there is something to gain, and that's the motivation that has to stay there, because greed usually brings to failure of on both sides, right?
Right. I guess in your experience, you had mentioned. Uh,
Apologies.
that's right. That's right. So you've mentioned before about investing in projects. Like, so investors themselves, is there a specific bias that they might have toward looking at a Web3 project? Like, is there already some misconceptions about Web3 projects or what it means to be a Web3 project? Do you think there's still confusion in the investor community?
I do believe that's pretty much a lot of magic words are misleading, and people may have confusion in terms of is blockchain is gonna work. We have
Yeah.
this wave. I remember when websites were, a long time ago. Everybody need to have one, else, so there was strange investment. I think that there is this sometime wave of investment towards the things that do not make much sense in a way. So as an investor, I know that the cost, that's why there is these strange things. Angels investor have the most difficult work, because you need to do due diligence in something that has no basis to do due diligence on. Second round investors, they have in front of a company that already has to analyze that this is something consistent, that is valid and work. So the risk is less. Strangely enough, right? So in the moment that somebody's approached, need to keep the cool. Don't get excited because the other person on the other side is excited. Don't fall for the FOMO. They say the fear of missing out, because something, I'm gonna lose this opportunity. Things like this. I have a podcast where I talk about the financial scam, how people fall for financial scams, and it's always based on rush. They want to rush people to take decision without leaving the time to think. If when you invest, you fall into mechanics of having to rush to invest because only 3 days left, probably leave it, because there is a danger that you don't think well enough, you don't do your analysis, so it's better to let it.
So is that a best practice? If someone is asking for money, and if they're pressuring you to hurry, make a decision, and say, "Oh, I've got 10 other investors, and the first one in gets the best deal," I guess that's a red flag.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
There is no such thing, right? If somebody really has the opportunity, open the doors to all of them. So it's really no such thing like, oh, you missed the opportunity. And if it is, good luck to you. Meaning that must be pondered very, very well.
Yeah.
I've been surprised how, and also for an investor, it's important to ask yourself, am I ready to support to the end this thing? Meaning, is just one token one time and good luck or not?
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna be there monitoring what's going on, pushing the people to do the things, ask information, and when I see that I should add some little money to make sure something succeed, I'm ready to do so, without falling into the fear of keep adding money as I lose the money that I put in before, which is the classic casino slot machine mechanics that drive people in. So there are this aspect on terms of what is the business that I am financing about. The real question is something useful. I am really surprised how people go after things that doesn't say anything. A lot of big words that don't have an actual practical solution, rather than going to the farmer that doesn't speak very well, in the language that has a very good point. I put a plant and I sell it because they need it to eat, which is a guaranteed sort of business. In terms of technology and Web3, there are things that are necessary. There are things that are non necessary, right? So a game is not necessary, is an additional thing. So that's why the reason SimFly seems not a good opportunity for an investor. Because do you know somebody playing with Flight Simulator? Nobody knows, because these people don't have a social life. They stay at home close with their things. But at the same time, it's a fantastic target, because these people spend a lot of money, because a computer powerful enough to run a Flight Simulator is a very expensive computer. There is always to buy new stuff and new accessories. So these people spend tens of thousands of dollars on their instrument to do this, which means that when they get into a game, they ask $50. Those are nothing, okay? So it's not like asking $50 to somebody that spend them in a month to survive, So it's really an analysis of who are the people that purchase the service or purchase the solution, and which is the profile of these people, which is the power of the business. So it's interesting. Microsoft celebrated 1 year ago 10 million active pilots on their Microsoft Flight Simulator. 10 million people that is there spending every week several hours on this activity. And so this is a target that is very beautiful for a niche, right? But it's harder for an investor to but we've been lucky about that. But it's hard for an investor to understand the opportunity, right? Is difficult. So
Right.
when somebody starts with a business with the idea that he wants to be financed, wants to be invested, he should study something that is easy to understand and straightforward for an investor. So generalistic knowledge, common sense would approve it. When somebody
Right.
do something because they want to make a good and because they know specifically, then forget about investors, or it's gonna
Oh.
be difficult to find them, in my opinion.
All right. So I spoke with one investor before who was saying that when they look at projects, they sometimes there's a gap in knowledge for sure, and understanding. You can't just say blockchain. Well, what are you solving with the use
Yes.
of blockchain? So, and also if they're looking at the code, they don't even know what they're looking for. So he was asking me, oh, do I know someone that can do code audit and kind of help verify part of the due diligence? I guess in that respect, in that knowledge gap, and you as a CTO, what would your definition be for a project that claims to be a Web3 project? Like what characteristics make it a Web3
Yeah.
project?
That's a very good question, because the definition is so wide that pretty much everything. But one thing you said before is very important to underline it. I think calling a consultant to validate something, it can save you a lot of money and a lot of time. I've been doing this as a person, consulting to validate the project was good, or there was something behind the piece of paper for the claim, and this really is very important. Now, for the definition of Web3, that's a very complex aspect. I think in general, we are moving in the era of information technology. We come out of the industrial era, we enter in the era of information. We went from digitizing analog content, from transmitting it online, to actually selling services in this world. I do believe that what web was, as a key basic definition, was in a passive way. I have HTML, is hyperlink text markup language, right? Which allow me to go from a website that is talking about various things and mention a tree. There is a link, and I go to a website where they talks about this tree a lot. Now, in this paradigm, I can be anybody, doesn't matter. I go through the web without my identity following me. Web3 is pretty much the same thing, but my identity follows me wherever I go. And my accessory, my assets follow me wherever I go, being them compatible or not. This is the key difference between the before and the after, right? And to have my identity following me wherever I go, I need an underlying technology, an underlying platform, which can be blockchain, to support the uniqueness. Blockchain revolution is, as I was saying before, having a unique asset in the digital world, right? I cannot make the copy of the Bitcoin. I cannot make the copy of my identity in the same way. So, and I cannot make the copy of my assets. If I sell them, they don't belong to me anymore. So this, when I visit a website, that can be three-dimensional virtual reality, but can be just a normal website where I bring my identity with me, and it's the same that I use somewhere else, no, a different username and password for each website. This is Web3, in my opinion. So is the possibility to decentralize, distribute, maintaining a key element along all the places I visit. That's my vision, my understanding of Web3. Can be metaverse, can be not, can be cryptos, can be not, doesn't really matter.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to go back to the whole point of, auditing the code of a project for investors to validate it. I think the most important part also, especially with all the hacks that have happened in this industry, is code security audit, right? And I think I spoke to somebody in the space where they had got some quotes for an audit, and it was like $40,000. It's quite expensive. So I think a lot of businesses don't want to put out that money, but it is very important. So what do you think is the best place to go for like an audit like this?
ChatGPT? No, I'm talking honestly. If you think in the year, I think the word, we have a calendar before Jesus Christ and after Jesus Christ. I think we need to another one before ChatGPT and after ChatGPT, which is close to the pandemic as well as divider. I think this company that were doing audit as a service for other. On smart contract is the biggest auditing things, because smart contract are the key, even though we talk about generic code auditing for security for sure. They publish smart contract, they end up failing. The DAO is the first big example, right? That we may remember. That company was doing auditing for third parties. Can you imagine? And their own code that fails. So where is the guarantee that somebody is a beauty mark that you put in your website? They say we're being audited by, because if he says it is good, it's good. Truth is that humans fail. And human fail. Every code there is a 0 day, there is things need to be updated. Smart contracts were condemned to the fact to be immutable, right? Because if you can change a smart contract, then what's the point to have a smart contract, put everything in a central server? In fact, I don't like people. So, because we can change, then the trust need to be on the person at this point, put in a central server. Anyways, I do believe that it's important to see the architecture, see the logic, but the flow specific on some library that people use to make a code, those are close to impossible, because are given as good. If I can discover all those vulnerability, and I am multimillionaire in 2 days, because I will be selling them online or warning people to fix their code. So that architecturally wise, the analysis is very important. Logical protocol wise, absolutely to be done. Code wise, to a certain extent, but it's impossible to guarantee that something is immune from attacks. In the term of blockchain, there is an interesting aspect. A blockchain is made by many nodes in a peer-to-peer network. So the first things to see is that every node has not to be identical to all the other, because if there is a vulnerability, you take down the full. So it's important that a protocol is being implemented in many different ways by different teams, and is compatible because of the protocol, but there are many different versions of the software. So if one has a vulnerability, you can take down a piece of the network, which is not a big deal, but you don't take down the full network. So that's when people go in layer one, this is a very, very, very important aspect to consider.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of new layer ones being built, and also layer twos. How does an investor decide, which ones? I mean, I see a lot of projects supporting multiple different chains. Yeah.
The blockchain that you use can be pivoted one from the other. It doesn't matter. The investor shouldn't really care about an amazing idea. It's going to make million. But you use the blockchain. I don't like it. Don't invest. I don't think that's the case. That's just it's like to say, I don't know, like to make an analogy, I would now buy a house, but don't buy because the color of the walls inside are not the color I like. I can paint it over. That's not a big deal. What is important is the use case, why this thing should be selling, why people should use it. That's important. That behind there is Polygon or Ethereum, but the fees are too high in Ethereum, or we do our own. That doesn't really matter. You fix those things. Those problem can be fixed without a major issue, unless we're talking about an angel investor in a startup project. If the project is big and important, that's irrelevant, in my opinion.
Okay. So when it comes just on the same theme of like building the tech for a project, how do the complexities of the technical side of Web3 projects impact the ability to attract investors? Because, like you said, if they don't understand, do they only invest because maybe their friends in the industry have also invested? Do you think these complexities make it harder to attract investors?
Well, as an investor, if I want to go down the level of asking questions about technology, I will need to understand first the objective of the project. But in general terms, I want the team to use languages, libraries, and systems that are very widely known. So in case a developer drops out, a new one comes in and can take over easily, because the worst thing is customized code, customized systems that only 3 people know. And when, in the case, people can be blackmailed by the developer, because if this goes away, we need to start from zero. So it's important. As an investor, I want to ensure that my money are used to build redundancy in terms of in developers, developing team. I want to make sure that things are stable and can get to delivery, and not just a one-man show. That's an important thing.
So do you believe just a thought that I had, with all the projects that were funded in 2022, let's say, or in 1 year or 20, how many of those projects do you think have like some quality code
I was
or
thinking your question was, with all the projects being founded in 2022, how many Ferrari and Lamborghini have been sold subsequently?
that's another question too. Right.
uh, yeah, well, the that's something interesting because the code, one more time, unfortunately, it is I say it is, and I get an headache when I say it. You can have crappy code, but if you deliver something, you are delivering it. Even then, you fix the
Yes.
code later, right? So what is more important is always the same thing. Is something I'm making something that people want? Is what I'm making shaped on what people tells me they want? Because then the code underneath, I think the ideal project to build something with tape and stuff attached, and when it's mature, it has enough money to restart from zero with experience done and code the perfect piece of software, because it's impossible unless if I have $10 million on the side, I can really work in steps. I have no rush in delivering, and I can really do the analysis, all the architecture, all the market research, etc., and comes out with a good product. But in reality, it is happen very rarely, unless you're a big corporation. So what you do, you have little resources, you do what is simple. Unfortunately, also programming language where you have a lot of developers are those simple programming language, means they are high level, means they consume a lot of resources. Hardly somebody start making their Web3 service coding in C compiled for the server, right? Everybody use Golang, Python, even
Rust.
worse,
Yeah.
which, Rust is already a little better in terms of
Yeah.
consumption of processor, but there are a lot of languages that are easy, and there are a lot of people. I remember when there was this wave of Ruby on Rails, everybody Ruby on Rails, because it's really super high level, So the idea is that that doesn't matter at the beginning. So starting with the proof of concept, with the MVP, all the process to go even to a product that is delivered, build it that is stable, but maybe the code is crap. The server, you need a very big server. Facebook, I think, when it started and exploded immediately super well, was coded in PHP, and they had a full building full of server. Then has been recoded, and in just 3 server in one room was running the same amount of things, right? But probably, they needed to go through the path in order to optimize the code. So the investment to make good code cannot be done at day zero unless there is a lot of money and there is no rush in delivering. So that's
So
so
I guess, yeah. So that goes back to the whole challenge then of, or the harsh truth about fundraising. So if you're after investors who are looking for, the investors, look, they want to know their time frame on when they can exit.
correct.
Quite simple, right? Some can last longer than others, and some are willing to allow or wait longer than others. But even in the crazy times with the ICOs, I mean, after that, I've met a lot of investors who are looking for projects who are planning a token generation event. Why? Because they know they can cash out quickly in a matter of time. They don't, and speed to market is important. It's not speed to revenue. It's just speed to realize their profits.
Those are Ponzi schemes for real. If you think about it, the definition of it, like pay the first with the money of the seconds, because really that's what it is.
Right.
I'm allergic to those things. I mean, surely it's easy way to make money if you know that the person is organizing a very good pre-sale, and then is good pump, and then big dump, and then somebody paid for it. I find it unethical, honestly, and actually unmoral. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a lawyer that told me the difference between ethical and moral. Ethical means to comply with the law. So maybe
Okay.
something is ethical, but it's not moral to do it, right? So the correct definition is immoral. And in these terms, probably those things are a good opportunity. I know that people that want to make money doesn't look in the face of anybody, but I want to go
Sure.
sleep in the night with my heart that says I never damage anybody, right? So in those terms, the kind of investment probably are good, but I will never be the one suggesting methodologies or other things. I stay away from those things. So those token event drops and things, if it's advertisement, yes. If it's really a money movement, I mean, I never did it for a good reason. Not that I don't know how to do it. I consulted
Sure.
clients that did it, but
Sure.
it's something that I don't want. I believe
Yeah.
in a good product that can generate good revenue because people is happy to pay for it. Look at something like I had no doubt to give $20 a month to ChatGPT because my advantage in working, speeding up processes, in getting document ready in a Flash is what if they ask me $100 a month, I give them. If they ask me $200 a month, I'm gonna start saying, I live in Indonesia, secretary, I can pay for the money. But ChatGPT is much better than a secretary in those terms. So, when you have an offering of something that people really use and they become addicted to it because really is important for them, there's no discussion about investing, in my opinion. Web3, no Web3, the technology is behind things. Does really matter.
Yeah.
There is, and I think it's correct. There was a guy with the cell phone, and I asked him, "There is internet?" Says no, and then I see he's doing Facebook in his cell phone. So you're doing Facebook? There isn't. No, this is Facebook. Is no internet, right? Because people don't know what there is behind what they are using, and they shouldn't
Yeah.
even care at the end. So I mean, culturally you should know and care, but in a certain term, when you use your home banking from your cell phone, do you know the server architecture that is behind what guarantees your security? No, you trust the bank that they do the things properly. So
Yeah.
if a project uses blockchain rather than centralized server, makes a difference for me as a final user. I want to use the advantage of what the service has been given to me. That's what need to be analyzed. That behind there is
Right.
blockchain is a fancy, nice terms to sell more.
Right.
Okay, but it's not really the key of why a project is going to be successful, right?
Right.
Actually, blockchain is a pain in the butt because you need to save your private keys. It's very complex to manage compared to just a classic SSO login in a website. So it's to be considered by an investor not to fall for this fascinating underground that there is behind the service. That's relatively important. Is what the user want and what
Yeah.
the company is selling that are keys, in my opinion.
Good point. Good point. Hey, Robert, I'm going to pause for 1 second. I think someone at my door, and I just want to make sure it's a delivery or something like that.
Sure,
Sorry
sure.
about that.
Go ahead, no
I'll be right
problem.
back. Right back.
Sure.
We can edit that out.
Yeah, sorry. Also, my wife ringing my phone earlier. Sorry.
No worries about that. No worries about that. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So then, look, I think that's we're talking about fundraising in Web3, and I believe even today, what's still happening is because liquidity is so tight, and I don't think that cheap money is going to be there. Obviously, it's going to not like it was in the past. So there's still people out there doing token launches or some IDO, and I ask these people, why are you doing it? Well, they can access the capital if they can. It's a choice, and I guess to your point, morally, they don't care about where the money comes from,
Yeah.
right? All the retail investors, just as long as they secure the capital to do whatever they need to do to survive and
Or to
build
buy the
whatever they want.
Lamborghini, as we were
Yeah,
saying.
exactly right. So I guess the behaviors of these investors, the retail investors as well, they're all part of the whole game. I think it's no secret that a large part of the population, they are investing in these projects. Why? Because they want that 5x in a week, whatever it is, right? And it's still happening. Do you think it'll ever stop?
As I was saying, I do this podcast on people falling for, financial scam when somebody calls you and say, hey, you won something, or, the desire of dreaming that something can happen immediately when you also see it happening. That's why people keep buying scratch lotteries or lottery tickets, like at the same time, I'm not saying now that everything is a bad thing. Usually the last are the one to lose. I think this wave of what was the ICO, this token launch of any sort, is on the phasing closing end, and people should realize that unless they really are close to the project and can be there at the beginning, there are little chances that things go the way. And after all, for this on the other side, on the startup side, okay, if somebody has a project that can self-finance, so just come out with MVP and start selling this base or collect some promise. Like if I want to open a cafe, I can pre-sell coffee cards, 10 coffee for half the price, and I sell 1,000 and I can finance my coffee opening. but not because these people are going to do bumps and dump on my coffee cards, right? Because there is an actual final use on this. Then there's a path to do. And it's also a slow growth, bring more stability in the long term. Something that grows fast in 1 month easily falls down in a month. Something that took a year to establish its level, it can take big hit and remain, at level for longer. So it's more better foundation, more stability. So on the side of an investor, when you arrive to a point that an investor can be interested, say, look, we're cash positive, we're cashing in $20,000 a month, which is not big, but with this we cover the expenses. Now, if we can have $500,000, we probably can employ 2 people more. We can put the advertisement. And if it makes sense, why not? What is slowing me from getting more customers? I have these blocks that will take them months. With some money, can take 5, and I can share the revenue with somebody else. I catch the moment as the kind of investment that makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your story then. This is a great segue into that, right? You were faced on a decision: should we raise money and trying to find ways to build revenue? So tell your story. Yeah.
Practically, I met these 4 guys. They had some money because they sold one part of another business that they had. And they being so unfortunate to give this, they were thinking that one consulting company from a country that I'm not going to mention, but not their own, would actually build everything for them. And genuinely, in good faith, they sent almost all the money that they had to these people. And these people disappeared, never delivered. Actually, even they dragged it for months of making these people waste even more time. So when I arrived in mentoring them, they were broke with the idea that was confused. They wanted to do something that was not really correct. And they self-financed in terms that they all worked their butt off, sorry for the French, but without paying themselves a salary, which is an investment, right? Because if I had money, I would give myself €3,000 a month or $3,000 a month, whatever it is, and working without getting that. But working means full-time every day, 8 hours or more even, including weekends sometimes. This is a way to invest, not money, but equivalent of money, right? What money could purchase, could buy. And this went to the point that I put to get my side, I put also money into this company, which immediately got to cover the couple of expenses that were. In 1 year of work, this was something built and ready to be delivered, but the tension was so high because money were not there. And that's why we will start searching for an investor to help put some advertisement out, because we had no idea how much are we worth. We don't know. You don't know. You can just come out with the idea number, but at this point, we failed because we didn't find an investor, because we were not, beautiful for an investor, I guess. But guess what? We opened our shop for assets one day, planning to start the sale, a 50% discount to, people that invest in you at the day zero. They are really people you need to treat very well because they trust your project, because there is nothing there yet, right? 1 week later, the opening. But the same day that we opened, the same day, in a few hours, $10,000 came in sales. People that didn't even wait 1 week to go. And we started with several hundred people that already follow us because we share about the project when we were building it. Now we have 8,000 people registered to our website. And we launched the first stable version of the first some things at the 1st of January this year. So we've been covered, but I can sit in front of the email and see new order. Nice. They really arrive not even 1 minute after the other. And with this money, we've been able to put 5 people at work with us. We can be able to build more stable things. And thank God we didn't have to give away anything of the shares of the company. So obviously, tomorrow comes somebody and want to invest, we're never going to say no, but we want to understand very well. And the ticket is going to be way bigger than it was when we had a question mark on top of our head. And now we have something that is worth already a lot, meaning even if we do an exit today, it comes out, somebody want to buy the whole company, we're going to go walking home very happy because, the value just for the money that it generates today and the potential of tomorrow are incredible. So
Sure. And I guess that that's the whole point. When you can start showing revenue, you can ask for a lot more money, but give up less of your company potentially, right? So I think that's a huge benefit. But right now, you guys are doing well, so that's great. It must be a tough decision at some point because you want to grow the company fast as well.
Yeah, the model that we're using can be applied to many other things.
Hmm.
So we have opened the door between ourselves to, once this is established and stable, to start and doing the same thing with all the experience we earned on something else. Personally, I had nothing to do with Flight Simulator in my life. As of today, if I sit in front of a Flight Simulator, I have no idea what to touch. I'm there for the technology, all the Web3 aspect,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, I don't see my life with this business in the long term. I'm super
Right.
happy to be a shareholder, and I'm so
Right.
sure that this thing is going to generate a lot of revenue. I believe that this will be something that I share with any startup. If you start making good money,
Yeah.
put the right people at the right place. Don't think you are the best CEO in the world. For sure, there is a professional
Yeah.
person that can cover the role. The
Mm.
CTO. Put some professionals in the right key position. Trust them. When people is professional, they're not gonna cheat you. They get paid well. They do their job, and then they can grow the company for you. You stay in the board. You give the vision, the direction, and leave to somebody
Mm.
else the direction, the action to get to the direction. When things are established and money are enough, I think a lot of company went down because the same kid that did the startup was also the CEO of these things that became too big, and that's not a good idea in my opinion.
Right, right. Okay. So I guess if we summarize a lot of the topics that or questions that I had asked you in our conversation, I believe we can simply say that Web3 is no different than many other industries in a sense that the human behavior of greed always exists. And I don't think it'll ever go away. So there might not be ICOs, but there will still be some token generation or airdrop that's going to draw people in, which will entice people to put their money out there. It probably still happens today. Real estate properties. There's probably many stories of
Good.
like new developments. Invest here, and then those development companies run away. Multi-level marketing products. There's a lot of different stuff for fast money. Why do you think that is? What is this obsession with fast money, fast life, buy things faster?
Who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want that? Unfortunately, and sometimes it's people that really put their life savings into these things, and
Yeah.
if an investment is a risky thing always. You
Mm.
invest, the business can go well or bad. That's not something you cannot pretend the money back if the business goes well, because that's a loan, it's not an investment, right? But people should never do something that put at risk their own well-being, right? So
Yeah.
never invest more than you can lose, right? And if it goes well, better. But it
Yeah.
is
I think that is the summary of investments in general, right? So I think,
yeah.
yeah, of course, you're not going to want to put, all your life savings into something because you're going to need it just in case the investment falls through. So, yeah, never invest more than you can afford to lose is, what I think I've been hearing a lot of
Yeah,
people.
this
Yeah.
it work more in Web3 world, blockchain things because you move even faster. Like with the real
Right.
estate plan, you lose your money in 3 years.
Yeah.
Web3, you can lose your money in 3 days, but the concept is identical. So reputation of the people you're investing to, that's a key thing. How many success there were in the past, how much this person is established in this industry. I'm really planning to do this database like a sort of LinkedIn, but with proven fact, you claim to be an expert of whatever. Show me that in the past 10 years you've been working this thing. Now, today, everybody's an AI expert. Everybody
Ah,
became an AI expert.
yes.
Show me the 7 years ago you were working with AI. Then I can trust you. If you became an AI expert only 6 months ago, then thank you very much. I don't trust you. So it's important to look who you're investing to. Don't fall for sweet words, like
Yes.
beautiful
Yes.
talking, beautiful promises, but look at facts. And this
Yeah.
is apply everywhere. And Web3 even more because things move move fast, right? So
Yes.
uh,
That's a perfect way to summarize it, Robert. All right. Well, that wraps up our time on this episode. Thank you so much, and congratulations on earning revenue. So that concludes this episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I would like to thank all of you for listening to this episode, and I'd really appreciate it if you leave any type of comments that you'd like to share, because it helps to feedback on how I deliver these podcasts.